In this video, I'm going to show you how to place a rear wheel hub and bearing assembly on this Hyundai Sonata. Located behind your rear brakes, let's get started. Use a 21mm socket, remove all 5 lug nuts, and then pull the wheel off. Keep in mind, if your vehicle has these hubcaps, they will want to come off as soon as you pull the lug nuts off, so remove those as well. From the backside of the caliper, let's remove the two 14mm bolts that hold the caliper onto the slider pin and therefore the bracket. Break them free. Pull them off the rest of the way. Do the same to the upper. You can take a little pry bar, squish the caliper in through this opening. This is going to allow you to remove some pressure off that piston so you can more easily remove it off of the bracket. I'm going to take this off and set it aside right over here on top of the sway bar. I basically don't want to pull on the brake hose. That is why I'm not going to let it hang. Just secure it up here. Use a 14mm socket and remove the 2 bolts holding the caliper bracket onto the knuckle. I'm going to leave this in a few threads, that way it'll hold the caliper bracket while I undo the top one the rest of the way. Finish removing the bolts. Inspect them. If they're in poor condition, you're going to want to source new ones. These are rusty, so I'll clean them up, but they are still reusable. Take the bracket and the pads right off. Remove the brake rotor. If it's seized on here, first of all, make sure the parking brake isn't applied. That would hold it on, but it's most likely seized on the hub, so use a hammer, tap between the lug studs, and that should break it free. Slowly walk it off, set it aside. From the back side of the knuckle, you'll see 4 total 14mm headed bolts, 2 on each side. Let's break them all free and remove them. All right, that's all 4. Now use a hammer, tap the wheel bearing side to side, top and bottom. Just wiggle it and pull it off of the backing shield as well as the knuckle. There it is. Now the backing shield comes off with it. That's okay. It's because it's all kind of bolted together like a sandwich. But here's your wheel bearing. The fact that the backing shield came off is perfect because I would have removed it anyway, so we can clean everything. We want to clean this inner ridge here that the wheel bearing goes through, but also behind it. You want to clean on the back side of this. You want to clean this surface and this ridge here that the wheel bearing sits in. Be careful inside. You don't necessarily need to clean with, well, a very powerful tool in here because nothing actually presses in here. This is the area that the tone ring sits for the ABS sensor, which is right here. And you don't want to damage that ABS sensor. So what I will do is take a wire wheel, clean this outer ridge. I'm going to sand this down like I said, and we'll apply some anti-seize to everything so it doesn't corrode in the future, and put it all back together. With this all cleaned up, let's rinse it with some brake parts cleaner. I don't want to leave any of the dust in here. Wipe this all off. I'm going to briefly rinse this as well. I'm going to use a thin layer of anti-seize on the surface that I cleaned. Don't get it on the ABS sensor because you don't want to cover that with anything, but you do want to coat the metal that is now bare so it doesn't rust in the future. You don't need too much because if you put too much, it's just going to squish out as you mount everything back up. Just a thin layer, that's going to go a long way and prevent this from getting rusted, seized, and potentially even swollen if it rusts a lot. Once again, careful around that ABS sensor. Avoid getting anything on it. Apply a little bit right in here on this ridge that we cleaned up for the same reason. And this will also help it slide back together easily. And right on here where the wheel bearing actually mounts, it only touches these raised ridges, not the whole surface. Basically, coat everything that is bare metal. Before we put this back together, it's important to note that the wheel bearing on the backside has a flat edge and an edge that is raised up. The raised up part goes towards the top, the flat area goes on the bottom, so make sure you have it in the correct direction. Put the backing plate with the parking brake shoes on here and slide this wheel bearing through. It should all seat nice and even, nice and flat. Look from behind to make sure that it actually does. Wiggle it, and that is fully seated. Careful if you let go because it might fall out, but at this point we can go behind it, start the bolts in, make sure you start them by hand so they don't cross thread, and then we'll torque everything down. As you do this, make sure that the backing shield as well as, of course, the base of the wheel bearing stays lined up, otherwise you'll have a hard time starting the bolts in. With it all lined up, let's put the bolts in. And once you get one lined up, it should be a whole lot easier to get the others in, especially once you get a second one in because it'll stop pivoting around. I'm going to snug these up now, and I'm going in a cross pattern. That way I can seat the wheel bearing and that backing shield evenly. So I did that top one. I'm going to go across to this bottom one. There we go, just give them a few turns. Don't make them too tight. The torque on these is 65 foot-pounds, so it's not really high. You want to make sure you don't over-tighten them just from snugging them up. All right, let's torque them to 65 foot-pounds. Because I already bottomed them out and snugged them in a cross pattern, I'm not worried about going in a cross pattern for torquing them, although you can if you want to. This bottom one I can't torque just because of its location, so I'm going to do my best with a long ratchet, make it nice and tight. There we go. I have a new rotor here, but if you're reusing your old one, make sure this surface where the hub mounts is clean. If it's not, sand it down gently or use a wire brush so it can mount flat. Let's get the rotor on. Make sure it's fully seated. Check the adjustment of the parking brake shoes if needed. On the bottom right here is your adjuster, so you can either expand the shoes or contract them depending on how you need to adjust them for your rotor. Take your caliper bracket, slide it over the knuckle and the rotor. Have your bolts ready so you can start them in. That way it'll hold the caliper bracket in place. Once they're started on, let's bottom them out. All right, let's torque these two bolts to 60 foot-pounds. All right, Take the caliper, slide it over the bracket. Make sure it goes over the slider pins, just like that. Have your 2 bolts ready to start them on and resecure the caliper. Just move it around as needed to line things up. Once you have them started, snug them up. We'll torque these to 20 foot-pounds. Let's put the wheel back on. At this point, if your vehicle has a hubcap, you're going to want to put that on since the lug nuts go over that. You want to make sure that the cutout for the valve stem lines up, just like that. Start on all 5 of your lug nuts. We'll bottom them out in a cross pattern to seat the wheel, and then we'll torque them also in a cross pattern. That way everything can seat evenly. "79 foot-pounds in a cross pattern." Here we go. Double check them. All right, that's torqued.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.